Hi guys, welcome back to another Steam free-to-play walkthrough. Today we have Dagon, which is supposed to be based off of a H.P. Lovecraft story, which I always find this stuff interesting. I'm actually not a huge fan of his actual books. I like a lot of stuff inspired by him, but as always, I'll leave a link to the game in the description. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. We'll try to get the achievements, but no promises. We will beat it though. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work. Focus on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. And movement is limited, progressing through locations along with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of the will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story. Its historical background and author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder Sign. You can also access all the found facts later. They will be available in the menu. Jesus, dude. There it is. The Seeker, Lovecraft's letters. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation. As my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute, I cannot bear to talk too much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner, December 23, 1917. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day. But his tendency to endless correspondence was a relatively late growth. This dude was social media and before it was social, bro. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing. Thanking anybody for a present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. Selected letters, 1929 through 1931, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft would often skip mills to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them his most important legacy. Alright, we got that one. How do you move? I think I need a controller. Yeah, I didn't listen to their warnings when they said the game was a controller only. Thought it was a bluff. I still can't move. How do you move in this game? Oh, maybe you can't move. Oh, maybe I don't need to.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street.
Uh-oh. Wait a second, we committed suicide? That's not good.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Oh, so he's like embarrassed about something, I guess? Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, and World War I, 1914 to 1918. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Frederick Sir Turner, who first isolated the substance, originally called it morphium, after Morpheus, a Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse known as soldier's disease already posed a big problem in the United States. Drugs hype? Just kidding, don't do drugs. YouTube doesn't like that.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
There seems to be a question mark thing in every space so far. Boom, baby. Lovecraft and the Great War. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I chose a regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or piece of shrapnel could more conclusively and effectively dispose of me. Letters to Reinhard Kleiner, H.P. Lovecraft. But even though he passed the physical exam, his mother prevented him from going to the war. She has threatened to go to any lengths, legal or otherwise. If I do not reveal all the ills which unfit me for the army, I am Providence, the life and times of H.P. Lovecraft, St. Joshi. Joshai. Let's make sure there's no other ones. I don't think so. Pretty interesting so far. I actually didn't know most of this stuff, even though I know about him. Uh-oh.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
There we go. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and master of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will not be defeated. No quarter will be given, prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into our hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Hun under the King Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history, and legend made the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Tagway. Oh, my dude actually moved. Sick.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Dang, that was a short one. No! No. Can I go back? Ah, crap. Might edit back to that, maybe, if I can. I don't want to skip any. Ah, heck. Solitude and the Unbroken Blue achievement. What is that? Alright, guys, I won't play through it again and get to that point, so I'll be skipping to that because I want to see the trivia. Well, I don't see one, so I'm just going to continue on. And if I'm missing one, then I know this is where to get it, because I do not see one. I've been, like, across this whole map. It won't let me turn but so far right. You see how it kind of just, like, goes up and down in, like, a diagonal motion, because I can't go any further right. I've looked all throughout the boat, it feels like. I've looked at my feet. I've looked all the way to the left. Same thing with the diagonal motion. So, we'll just call it. And if I need to come back here, I'll try. It might not be gettable, because I know one of these achievements had very few people getting it, and that might be the one. I don't know.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Well, dang. Alright, well, let's go on then, I guess.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
There's one. Dagon was written in July 1917 and was first published in 1919. In The Vagrant, an amateur magazine focused on the supernatural, the story is the first of his stories that introduced an element from the Cthulu mythos. Dagon itself, a pagan cult worshipping Dagon, later appears in The Shadow over Innsmouth, one of Lovecraft's most popular works. 1917 is also the year when he wrote The Tomb, a story about Jervis Dudley, a daydreamer who discovers a mysterious mausoleum in the woods by his house and becomes obsessed with it. These two works marked Lovecraft's return to short story writing after he burned most of his attempts at the genre 9 years prior and decided to concentrate on poetry. Lovecraft stated that it was his friend William Paul Cook, a literary public and critic, who convinced him to start writing weird fiction again. I'm gonna see if I missed any. It doesn't take long to get to where I'm at, so I'm gonna just check and see if I missed two. And it doesn't look like it. Okay, sick. Unless it's like in a weird order, but it doesn't seem like it. Okay, cool.
The weather.
Okay, where's the thing? I already talked to the... There it is.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Not unbroken blue.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Uh-oh, what the heck is that? That's a crab? Oh, it's a prawn. Oh, it's a squid. That's sick, dude. Good for you. I ain't ready for that yet. That's boat, if that's a thing. Alright, let's move on.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Okay, sick. That thing's scary looking. The Origins of Dagon. Dagon seemed to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb, about natural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake, supernatural horror and literature by H.P. Lovecraft, and Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed that the whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In Defence of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells. In his own words, I feel that, bro. I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old, but I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Wandre. I feel that, bro. The sea is terrifying, actually. Actually terrifying. The deeper you go, the worse it gets. Relatable. Okay, I think that's it. Ugh, swish swish.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
You're in hell.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
This guy's smart as crap. I would have never thought of that.
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
I would have just been like, well, I woke up in hell, I guess. Not all volcanic eruption caused land to form. That's just me. I don't know. There's the continue button, but... Oh, okay, I was like, click. What is clicking at me? The mystery of volcanic islands. Volcanic eruptions sometimes result in the creation of islands. Most of them are transient and erode after some time, but some prove permanent. The floating pumice, porous rock, created when superheated pressurized rock is ejected from a volcano, can move across great distances and transport barnacles and macroalgae that cling to it. In 2001, rafts of pumice created during the eruption of a volcano near Tonga, Polynesia, eventually reached Australia. What was that? Oh, I thought I heard something. There seems to be a click cue when...
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Hail! Say no more, fam. I feel you. Alright, I don't think there's one here so far.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
From my experience, to tend to not have the trivia. I could just be missing them, but who knows. I'll have to go back if I am, I guess.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Since I've seen a trivia, which maybe this is long so they're trying to space it better, but I don't know. Guess we're trivia'd out or something, I don't know, dude.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Alright. Sick. The horrors of the ocean, the creator of Cthulu's Mythos and the fictional underwater city of R'lyeh, was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet below the ocean surface, in never-ending darkness, and at hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard to not find some irony in this. True. He was pretty spot on talking about the hell creatures that live in the ocean. That is true.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. an intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain,
Oh, I know about the gibbous moon.
I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
From freaking Cage Face.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
Facts.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Yeah, but you might get grabbed up by one of these tentacles, bro. What the heck? Kidding me? You want to walk near these flailing tentacles at nighttime? The loner, contrary to popular opinion, Lovecraft was not an ever-frowning, eccentric, grumpy loner. He considered himself to be a person who appreciated humor. Moreover, he would often meet with friends in an apartment or at various cafes in Brooklyn and London. At times, his social life was so intensive, his work would suffer for months. There was a point when he finally decided he needed to put an end to daily meetings and loitering in New York cafeterias, and resorted to hiding at home and reading with the main room light turned off, pretending he wasn't there whenever a friend knocked on his door. He also had another method of deterring his guests, which involved greeting them in a bathrobe, with an unmade bed visible in the background, and piles of papers scattered across the floor. Oh, H.P. Lovecraft's like, yeah, I'm getting laid, bro. I ain't got time for this, bro. Oh, that's funny. Alright. Nice, dude.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
Satan!
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
I like the ones with the question mark. It's kind of hard to see the ones with the symbol, which I think is intentional, but...
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
I wouldn't descend.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
That's just me, though, I guess.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Yeah, but it looks like there isn't anything, bro. Unless I'm just missing these, but like I said, I think this achievement is rarely gotten. Might be one of those ones that might not be able to get and only hackers have it. Because there are those backband people that do that stuff.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
But we'll see, I guess.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Well, okay.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight. I examined my surroundings more closely.
Okay. Do you have a thing here now? That'd be sick. I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, it doesn't look like he changed to show anything. Alright, well that's fine then, I guess.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Cosmic Horror Scholar. Dagon contains storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, journals and character notes, the Shadow of Time, Out of Time, the Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo and the Whisperer in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu's mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Okay, thank you.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
These dang waves are loud, bro. It's like louder than the talker.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Like Poe.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Huh.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist.
I will say the art, like the depiction of everything is like so good, dude.
I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What do we see? What are we seeing? I don't see it. Oh, there it is, that ripple.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Uh-oh. Run!
Loathsome. It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
It's time to run.
I think I went mad then.
Yeah?
Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
These trivia are like sparingly put after this.
I believe I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Nervous, bro. Saw a big freaking Murloc thing. Giant. What's that thing over there? The Cosmos. Hey, I'm not getting much trivia after the start of the game, to be honest with you. Even though I'm like barely halfway through it.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Wow, how do I turn up the voiceovers, boy? There you go. Because he is so quiet. I don't know why it starts like that. That makes no sense. I would much rather hear what he's saying than the noises going around. Oh, I passed out. I didn't click anything.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Delirious but free.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
There we go. The journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example, excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is, or ever can be, above warfare, until the basic impulses of the human animal have miraculously changed. Seems like we're getting super close to the end of the game, and I have not even close to all the trivia. In Defence of Dagon, in 1921, Lovecraft released a series of 3 essays. Defense reopens, the defense remains open, and final words. Later published as a collection titled In Defence of Dagon, in which he rebuked a series of criticisms directed at his works. Some notable quotes. I paint when I dream, and I will let the public settle the rest amongst themselves. Mr. Monday asked the raison d'etre of Dagon. I will give it, purely and simply to reproduce a mood. Its object is the simplest in all art portrayal. The physical horrors of war, no matter how extreme and unprecedented, hardly have a bearing on the entirely different realm of supernatural terror. Ghosts are still ghosts. The mind can get more thrills from unrealities than from realities. In the essay, Lovecraft touches upon the topics of atheism, materialism, the quest for truth, and the love of science. Yeah, dude, I must have missed a ton of trivia because I think we're towards the end. But I don't think we're gonna find it either because I look pretty hard in like most areas, like everywhere. Unless there's like, I don't know, dude. Ain't looking good. There's one. The Atheist. Lovecraft considered himself an atheist, an absolute materialist, which he attributed partly to his early childhood interest in astronomy and science in general. In his own words, I am indeed an absolute materialist, so far as actual belief goes, with not a shred of credence in any form of supernaturalism, religion, spiritualism, transcendentalism, metempsychosis, or immortality. All I say is that I think it's damned unlikely that anything like a central cosmic will, a spiritual world, or an eternal survival of personality exists. They are the most preposterous and unjustified of all, the guess which can be made about the universe, and I am not enough of a hair-splitter to pretend that I don't regard them as errant and negligible moonshine. In theory, I am an agonistic, but pending the appearance of radical evidence, I must be classed, practically and provisionally, as an atheist. Sources: Against Religion, The Atheist Writings of H.P. Lovecraft, Mythos, The Myths and Tales of H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard. Oh, credits.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Oh, sick. Not the last room, then. Dagon. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem, and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretations of his name, as in Hebrew, the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity, ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Sorry, some of these words are kind of hard to read for me. Oh.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Oh, nice. The Marketer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine, where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, ripest scholarship, and mellowest craftsmanship which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low, and a trademark of the individual pieces present in any substitution by careless contractors. Source: Lovecraft's Studies, Volume 7, Number 1, H.P. Lovecraft, St. Joshi. St. Joshi. St. Josh? I don't know. The world may never know. I can look all the way around here, that's kind of weird. Oh, it's because I have to look all the way around to advance the plot. Ah, yes, nice. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world. and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. See, I actually like what August Derleth did compared to like the original writings of H.P. Lovecraft, even though I find them immensely interesting. I just feel like, I don't know. There's not enough conflict in his stories. It's kind of like you're just an observer, and it's really hard to get very invested in the story for me anyways. I think they're interesting, but I feel like without the conflict of the good versus evil, of Cthulhu being evil and it not just being like a thing that just exists, I don't know, doesn't get my interest as much, even though I get it. Why would a deity be concerned with the doings of man if he's truly like transcendental cosmic entity? But I find it more interesting when they're evil and creepy. Like you can even tell in Dagon that the fish thing didn't really care about this dude. It was just going for that monolith for some reason. Like, this rock is pretty and I like it. This is my rock. There are many like it, but this is mine. I don't see anything here, to be honest with you. I don't even see a note here, to be honest. At all. At all. I do like me some Edgar Allan Poe, though. Ah, it was in the clock. The scientist. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term. See, that makes me wonder how many I've missed, because I didn't even see that one. I just kind of clicked, because I heard this audio cue. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time of Dagon was published, it was subject to a wide debate. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out the man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted in Defence of Dagon that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet, in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the United States were of the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice. Among other things, it was gender-specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and a man of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym. And so it's right there if you're wondering, because that's probably the hardest one I've found so far. Is that it? I have to be getting pretty close to having them all. When I got like half, I was about this number-ish. Which sucks, because I'm going to miss like one of them. One or two. And that's always the hardest ones to find. Always. Always. Okay.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Nice. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco even though he used to smoke when he was 12. In order to look and feel like an adult, in his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance. Hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one's antisocial force, as well as of any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's letter to Zelia Brown, Reed Bishop, H.P. Lovecraft, Sean Brainey, and Andrew Lehman, S.T. Joshi. Joshi. Oh, Joshi boy. Okay, well this is probably where it ends, and I didn't get the achievement, so... Dang it, dude. Yeah, I won't be missing like one or two. Okay. What is this bottle for? You gonna kill yourself with the bottle, or you jumping out the window, my dude? Oh, he's drinking.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
There he is.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Oh, it's America. Nice. Look at us. Trivia! Oh well. The end.
The end is near.
Oh. Sick. I have a chance. Oh, something banging behind me, boy.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Get away from my door, dude. I don't see anything. It's not. Alright. Bite me, you heathen.
It shall not find me.
Here we go. Oh, heck.
God, that hand!
Can't really see it.
The window! The window!
The window. The time? Oh, please, come on, give me the tip. I don't want to go out the window, to be honest. What's up with those rings? The window! Oh god, the window. Yeah. Dang, dude. I wonder how many I'm missing. Ah! The window! Bro, it's just drugs, man. You're having a bad trip. You're gonna regret it. Probably. Here we go. What? Oh, we missed it. Oh well. Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. Yeah, I'll rate it on Steam, for sure. How many did I miss, though? God dang, dude. The window. It's okay, I missed two. Actually, against my better judgment, I'm gonna try to find it. God dang. So we know it's after the loner, right? It's after.
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as
It sucks. It do suck. Oh, I found it! It was in order. The Piltdown Man. Lovecraft would often use the latest scientific discoveries and inspiration for his works. He would even update his stories at the last moment in order to make sure they reflected the latest breakthroughs. Unfortunately, this method was not without its flaws. After Lovecraft's death, the Piltdown Man, discovery mentioned in Dagon, turned out to be a anthropological fraud. In 1912, Charles Dawson, an amateur archaeologist, announced that he had discovered the missing link between ape and man, the fossilized remains of a previously unknown early human. Years later, they turned out to be a forgery, but by that point, the fraud had already managed to negatively affect the early research on human evolution. In the year when the discovery took place, the majority of the scientific community believed Dawson indeed found the missing link. In 1953, Time magazine published evidence proving that Dawson was a con man. It turned out that the fossil of the previously unknown early human consisted of a human skull, the jaw of an orangutan, and the chimpanzee teeth. Oh, they got him. Alright, one more, dudes. That was a hard one to find. I don't know why it was so hard, but it was. One more. But that does tell me that they're not in order, which they're close, but they're not. I looked. I could not find it for the life of me. There it is. Elder sign. It was right there on the wall. At another house where people were stirring, he asked questions about the gods and whether they dance often upon Larian. But the farmer and his wife would only make the elder sign and tell him the way to near an altar. The dream quest of unknown Kadath. H.P. Lovecraft. Elder sign is a protective symbol that can be found in various works of pop culture, usually represented by a five-pointed star with an eye of flame symbol in its center. For example, the games inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's writing, it is supposed to ward away all kinds of cosmic horrors. However, this is a later version of the sign created by the author's friend, writer August Derleth, which I like better, like I've already said. In our game, we have used the original symbol, as designed by Lovecraft, in the form of a six-pointed branch, which he sometimes included in the letter to his friends. Oh, so that's what that's supposed to be, the thing I'm looking up. Alright guys, so we got all the things. I went back against those two are hard, dude. But yeah, hopefully this will be helpful to you if you need to find the rest of the trivia. Thanks for watching. As I said, if you want to see me get the DLC, just let me know. Bye!